Westmoreland. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. It's so good to chat with you.
Same. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm sure a lot of people have. You've been a popular lady these past few days, huh?
Somewhat.
Okay. I see that. Well, listen, I want to be super respectful of your time. Also say thank you in advance. I chose not to practice, but I know hours are billable. All right. So you definitely want to be thoughtful of your time. So you and I have kind of talked a few days about, you coming on, talking a little bit about the experience with your client. For those that don't know you, which I think is going to be rare in this audience, tell us a little bit more about you and your involvement in this case.
So I'm Nicole Westmoreland, and I was co-counsel with attorney Bruce Harvey, and we represented Mr. Nichols in what is commonly referred to as the YSL trial.
Awesome. And for those that are unfamiliar, what charges was Mr. Nichols facing?
So he was facing murder, RICO, gang count, firearms, more than one firearm count. So it was a lot.
Okay. And then is he in good spirits, like after the result of what you guys have seen last week?
Oh, absolutely. He was smiling ear to ear. I was sent a few pictures from individuals, that did screenshots, I guess, of the live feed. And, he was smiling ear to ear and he was happy. He is happy.
So last week we saw, or at this point, almost 2 weeks, right? You were a person that, we've been seeing a lot of motions for mistrial in this case, right? I think it was almost over 40 motions for mistrial.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And, with this one, let's talk a little bit about the motion that you made, because that motion for mistrial was interesting. And I don't think any of us expected the outcome, right? But how significant was this particular motion that your team brought to the judge's attention, and why?
So, the motion was significant because it appears that it was, the straw that broke the camel's back, for our judge. And, at a certain point, she said, well, how do you guys want the mistrial? And right then it was like, wait a minute, is this happening? Is this finally happening? And, we wanted the mistrial with prejudice, obviously, because that means that the state wouldn't be able to bring the case back. And, the judge kind of nipped that in the bud pretty quickly. We really wanted to continue to argue for the motion for prejudice with the motion, but she seemed to stop that pretty cold. And then, the judge asked, would you like it without prejudice? And when the judge asked that directly, that seemed to strongly indicate her position. And then we all had to huddle and try to decide, is this something that we really, really wanted? Because, as far as we were concerned, we were headed towards an acquittal, or we felt like, the very strong possibility of it. So it was a hard decision to make, and we all need to huddle. And we believe that definitely, speared off the real plea negotiation.
Yeah, no, you guys did a fantastic job with that, especially because I don't think that we expected the result that we got, especially given the experience with the prior judge. Is that something that you or your team expected? Even Mr. Nichols, were you guys surprised when she mentioned it?
When the judge said, how do you want this mistrial?
Yes,
we were. I mean, like you said, there had been dozens and dozens of motions for mistrial, right? Because that's what you're supposed to do if inadmissible evidence is, presented to the jury. So we were just doing what we were supposed to do. We would not have been surprised at some point throughout the trial for a mistrial to actually happen, because it was error after error after error. And after a while, how can you reasonably believe that these errors won't make a difference, right? So, I wouldn't say that we were surprised to actually get a chance at the mistrial. I will say that we didn't expect it right then at that moment.
Got it. There's a big difference there because, me and this audience have been watching the proceedings for months, and that's how we know that there's been a counter as far as how many motions there have been. But, I do want to thank you at the same time for not only being a great advocate for your client, but you also reminded Judge Whitaker a few times that there were certain behaviors and patterns that would happen over and over again. So definitely want to thank you for that one. What response did you expect?
I don't think that we really thought about that. Remember how it happened, right? So we had just spoken with the prosecutor and brought the words frequay to her attention, right? And really, that's so law school 101 that, that's bad character and inadmissible evidence. Really, we shouldn't have had to catch it. They should have automatically redacted that.
Right.
But nonetheless, we did catch it and said something to the other side moments, before it happened. And, the other side agreed and stipulated that it couldn't come in. This conversation was right with the judge. So the judge had a chance to hear it. So, it couldn't, no one can say, oh, no, that's not what this person said, or it was a misunderstanding. I think that played a part in it. And moments later, remember the state put the exhibit on the screen. And so the exhibit on the screen did not have the words frequay. We had just walked over to the other side to examine the exhibit, and it didn't have frequay. So when the witness actually said that, the moment happened so quickly. So, look, at the end of the day, you have to be constantly paying attention and quick on your feet, because who would have known, that slip up was about to happen, but it did. And our team caught it, and we immediately made the motion. And we just really didn't have time to think about what the judge would or would not do when deciding the motion. We just did we did our job. We did what we were supposed to do. And the judge and the court responded accordingly.
In the meantime, if you guys have any questions, you could put a Q in the chat and let me know what your questions are. So I think we had just left off at the responses, right? And I remember you finishing the thought. I think we were going to move on to talking about plea deals, because the ultimate result is this high volume of plea deals for so many of the defendants in the case last week, which is good, especially Young Thug being free at this moment, and the wonderful result that we have for your client as well. Now, plea deals, and I like this conversation because sometimes it works out really well. Sometimes, we saw with Moontunk, it didn't work out really well. What do you think is the impact of plea deals in this case, just overall? And then we'll zero in on how it helped your client.
That's a great question. And it's a multi-answer, because some of the impact of plea deals in this case was you had these individuals who, were stuck in Fulton County Jail, which is a really, really bad place to be. And, nasty, disgusting, people dying, dangerous. And, so they're in this situation, and then presented with a deal that oftentimes lets them go home that day after they had sat inside of the jail for a significant amount of time with no bond, that they went through bond hearing or hearings and listened to the prosecutor, argue to the judge that they're the most dangerous person in the world and definitely could not, should not be released. And the next thing you know, they have this plea agreement in front of them that if they initial these factual acknowledgments, they can just go home, right? And these are people. I don't refer to my clients as defendants. I call them my clients because they are. But these are individuals with family and kids and sick. You heard some of the witnesses, sick grandmother, Christmas and New Year's and things of that nature, real life situations. And all they have to do is sign on the dotted line. And then next thing you know, a year or two later, they're getting, called into trial and have to acknowledge and admit these acknowledgments that they didn't even really say themselves. They just agreed with them with their freedom. So one way that it strongly impacted this case is that these individuals had to come in and make a decision in reference to a plea that they took, at a time that they just didn't. And then, we'll say that another way that plea radically influenced this case is that, the case started out so big and, the state with so many allegations and And then next thing you know, at the end of it, there are plea deals with individuals going home the same day, time served and not pleading guilty to things like murder, that they were charged with. So pleas have been significant in this case.
No, they totally have. They totally have. And we've seen a little bit of that because we're seeing the people that are taking plea deals and they're like, oh, I signed that. I don't remember signing that. Or there are discrepancies with what versions they thought they signed and different versions that were actually executed. So, this has been on top of my mind and many viewers' minds because we're like, what? We're seeing a lot of discrepancies with these things, but also we're seeing opportunities where they can work out, like, how it had for your client. Now, was there any reluctance when you guys were negotiating with the state for Mr. Nichols' deal in itself?
Well, I can't really answer that question as far as particular reluctance in reference to that. Mm-hmm. But, I can say that it's our argument that this prosecution shouldn't even happen.
Yeah.
Period. Okay. Right. So with that being said, at the end of the day, what our client pled to was conspiracy, RICO, and the 2 acts that he admitted to was 2 drug offenses from several years ago that he had already pled guilty to. So as far as we were concerned, he had already pled guilty to those. So fine. What was not going to happen or what did not happen was a plea of guilty to murder, not happening, innocent man.
Right.
No plea to the gang charges, no plea to the firearms, and no factual acknowledgments that, that put individuals in positions to say things that the state just wanted them to say.
Yeah, 100%. And given his experience of what Mr. Nichols went through and all the legal challenges that have happened during this trial, what's the most important takeaway do you think the public should be aware of?
The criminal justice system isn't fair.
Mm-hmm.
And you say that, but people say that, but I think this is a situation where the public actually really was able to see it, in real time and see, over prosecution and see, lack of evidence, even with individuals being held without bond. You really got a chance. We see it all the time, but the world had the opportunity to see it. And that's so important. That's why public trials are so important. And so many individuals, their trial, it's a public trial. People can come in and watch if they want to. The media can ask to come if they want to, but they don't, right? Because people don't know this individual. So it's them and hopefully a few of their family members. And, although they're in an unfair fight, nobody knows. And when people don't know, you're pretty much fighting alone, right? So this was different. And that's one of the reasons, it's so important for public trials and the media to cover situations like this. And we really believe that it made all the difference.
No, it totally did, because you raised a few great points there. One of them being that a lot of, it's because this trial was televised. A lot of jurisdictions, a lot of states don't even allow that. I'm in Massachusetts, but recently moved up here from Atlanta when the case started and noticed that big difference in just some states do not have open televised trials the way that we saw this. It definitely did make a difference because you guys got a lot of coverage for sure.
We did.
Was that ever like awkward seeing the media in the room, or did that just become like the normal routine of the day?
It just really became the normal routine. For most of the lawyers in the courtroom, it wasn't the first time having a camera, around anyway. And I would imagine that for Mr. Williams, a camera being around isn't that, is okay. It's normal, everyday life. But really, you're so into what you're doing and fighting for your client that if you do notice the camera within moments, you don't even remember it's there. You're trying to catch things like free qua. And with this type of prosecution, with the state making this many errors, literally daily, it was jumping up, objecting, and making a motion or something of that nature for something else that the other side did wrong. So to be blunt, the cameras was the last thing that we were thinking about as we were actively litigating. But the cameras is something that we thought about on a day-to-day basis because we felt like it helped our clients.
Got it. And do you think that it also helped just see the errors that were made? Because a lot of them were patterns of behavior or patterns of errors that would continuously happen. Do you think that helped as well? Just kind of show the, because, I want to be nice about it, right? And stay positive. But I do think the state could have done a better job at packaging this case than what we saw.
No. I mean, I guess our opinion is no secret. They shouldn't have brought it in the first place. But anyway, but since they did, the least that they could have done is be organized and prep their case and make sure the rules are followed and things of that nature. But to answer your question, so absolutely, the media and the individuals watching and the chat and all of that was so helpful for so many different reasons. For example, there was times that, the prosecutor, the prosecution did something and it wasn't the first time. And we wanted to show that it wasn't the first time or that this was happening repeatedly. And either we wanted to argue that or we wanted to put that in motion. And literally the chat, what could help and say, if we had a question, how many times has she done this? Or the chat would say, oh, they did this on day 89, 96, 121. And we could just go right to those days and right to those clips and pull it. So that was amazing. It was awesome how much people paid attention and, was invested in this with us. And we appreciate it beyond words. Serious.
That is awesome to hear. And I know that the folks watching, some of them are asking now, like, when we point things out, do you guys read them? Things like that. It sounds like it was helpful, especially like finding those moments where these things have happened before, right?
It is. And I'll tell you a secret. I'll tell the chat a little secret. I guess it won't be a secret after we tell it. But a lot of us spent time, when we could, looking at different chats and things of that nature. And because everyday individuals, watching the case and watching the witnesses go up and seeing, hearing the questions and seeing the witness response and their demeanor and how they answer the questions, or how did our cross go? How did this evidence play out? Individuals on the chat would make their comments and say, this doesn't sound right. This doesn't sound true. This sounds like it's on purpose and things of that nature. And so you can't help but think, I wonder if a juror feels the exact same way, because as a lawyer, you have a little bias with it, right? You're like, no one could believe, what was just said, right? But that's your case, right? And you're highly invested in it. But to see someone else saying, that didn't sound right.
100%.
Right. That gives us a peek into what, jurors could possibly be thinking. So that was another thing.
Yeah, that is a nice screening process too. Like, what does the court of public opinion think? I know these guys have been with us all summer throughout the years or throughout the year. And one of the things that they've done is you guys would be in the courtroom objecting, and they would object with you and cite the correct rule of evidence. I loved it because, for us that do have a legal background, we've kind of taught them what to expect. And so many of them are learning so much about the law. But here in this chat, we have little objection things, little badges. If y'all could use one of them right now, I don't know if we can see it back here. But they use them all the time. They're like, okay, that's an objection 403. That one's not relevant. Max is right. Miss Westmoreland is right. They would do all that. So it was always a great time watching this. And it looks like the case might be coming to a close soon. How does it feel just personally not being in the courtroom every day?
It's different. It's weird. Because for, almost 2 years or over 2 years of our life, we've been, at that courthouse, in that courtroom with the same individuals daily. And so we've all really become family and have had the opportunity to really get to know each other and, go through birthdays with each other. I mean, seriously. But yeah, well, we have.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we have. And we went through holidays together and ups and downs and all kind of moments. So, it's like, it feels different not to see, your family on a day-to-day basis. After we finish with our part of the trial, we've both, myself, Attorney Harvey, we've both been in, to offer our support.
That's great.
And so we have, but it does feel different not to be there on a day-to-day basis. And we just wish the remaining two, we wish them all the best, and we want to see an acquittal.
Yes. 100%. And, we're all cheering them on from home as well, just watching some of the same repeated patterns happen, which is not a surprise, but we're watching with an open mind. But kind of shifting gears a little bit to you, because, one thing that I like to use with this platform is to encourage people that are interested in pursuing a career path in law to learn a little bit more about it and to gather some different perspectives. What made you choose a legal profession?
So for me personally, I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer. And I'm not saying that can't form later on in your life, but for me, I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I knew I wanted to do criminal defense. I knew that I wanted to be a trial lawyer. And so it was already a personal passion for me. But, I just would encourage you need to know, you don't have to exactly know what type of law you want to practice, but you probably will want to know that you enjoy to read, and because you're going to do a lot of it. Writing, because you're going to do a lot of it, and that this is something that you want to do because it's so time consuming, and it's so, it's a lot of emotional part that goes with it. It's a lot on the line, and it's going to take determination and dedication, and it's going to take a lot of time. So it needs to be something that you want to do. But if you want to do it, go for it.
Yeah, totally agree. My path is so interesting because I come from communications and banking, but I did for like legal folks, so when it came time to take to the bar exam, I was like, I don't know. But like, that's why I like sharing these different perspectives with all of the folks that listen, because, we all come from different walks of life, but at the same time, you also have to make sure that you like what you're doing. So thank you for saying that, because it's a lot of reading, a lot of writing, but the emotional component too, because as you mentioned before, being very invested in these cases with your clients and the outcome of it, right? Like that's something people really, really want to see. But I don't think you learn that in law school. You don't, like we had like trial team and things like that, like mock trials, but it's very different when you are practicing and doing your thing, in the middle of a courtroom, right? And over the years too.
When you're standing there and, your client's beside you, and if you guys win, they walk out. And if you lose, they could be facing the rest of their life.
100%.
And so that's serious and it's heavy. And, it needs to be something you really want to do. You really need to, because it's serious. Your freedom is so serious. Right. So anyway, but yeah, I think I agree with you that people can come from all walks of life to do this profession. And, I would only ask that they do it well.
That's right. Be the best zealous advocate that you can be. For sure. What is something that you really enjoy about your profession and your role?
So, I enjoy winning. I'm serious, but I enjoy winning. I don't take losing too kindly. And, but when you get a chance to help people, it's like personally what we do, we're on the defense side. And so the other side is powerful.
It is.
they're very powerful. And so often the individual, that we are representing is not near, couldn't hold a candlestick to the power on the other side. And so when we get a chance to put up that great fight and help someone's life and they know they're not alone and that they have someone fighting for them, that's a feeling that it's hard to even articulate, but it feels great. And I love every minute of it. I absolutely love what I do. Attorney Bruce Harvey absolutely loves what he does. He's passionate. He's determined. He's relentless. He's powerful. He's aggressive. And I think that's the type of lawyer that you want to have standing beside you, which is why I enjoy to work with him. But, it's just helping people. You help them and that also does something for you.
It does. It totally does. And, that kind of leads us to, aspiring law students out there. You made a point that sometimes you don't know what type of law you want to practice. When I started, I had no idea. And everybody came from different spaces, police officers, firefighters that had the time to study part-time and things like that. But some of them wanted to go into criminal defense. Some of them wanted to go into corporate. Some of them wanted to go into healthcare law. There's just so many broad spectrums of where you can go. There are aspiring law students out there that want to go into criminal defense. Any advice for them?
Well, sure, I would say that while you're in law school, it's probably the best time, but to do interns and, go over and work with the intern for the public defender's office. If you can stomach it, go over there and intern at the prosecution's office, right? Even if you want to be a defense lawyer. But either way, if you want to be a prosecutor, spend some time over there at the public defender's office too, right? So you can see both sides. And so my advice would be to intern as soon as possible. Once you get into law school and you know that you can handle your workload, then apply for internships. Try to do different internships. Maybe do public defender's office one, then do the prosecution the other, and then maybe spend some time at a private practice. And then that's really going to let you know. If you go and you do an internship and every morning or evening, whenever you're going up there, you can't stand it, it's probably not the fit, right? And then you'll get a chance to know that before you actually finish law school and then, apply for a job and you're hired and now you've signed a contract or something in the nature to stay for a certain amount of time. And then you absolutely hate it when you can figure that out, while you're in law school. So just go to law school open-minded and learn as much as you can, not just the books and what the professor's teaching you, but get some internships in there, and that'll help you make decisions, and hopefully it'll be the right decision for you.
That's awesome. And then let's go to mid-career, because I see this all the time, especially with friends that are prosecutors, and then they want to end up going into criminal defense. Biggest lesson for those guys.
People do it all the time. I have colleagues, I have friends. I did not go that route. So I'm going to tell you right now, I've never worked for the prosecution. Absolutely. I have not. It was not for me. Okay. Like I said earlier, I knew from the very beginning that I wanted to do defense. Okay. But there are plenty of individuals and great lawyers who started off as prosecution and then ended up on the defense. I believe that one of our colleagues in this trial, Keith Adams, was a prosecutor. Fact check me on that, guys. But went over to the defense, and he's an excellent criminal defense attorney. And he's one of my favorite cross-examiners. So, that shows you. And I believe just because he used to be a prosecutor, that he's still a real criminal defense attorney fighting as hard as he possibly can with every fiber in him for the defense. So, and I'll tell you, although I didn't go that route, you get a chance to see how the other side operates. And so when you're if you go to the other side, you know a little bit about what they do, and that's helpful, right? Experience is helpful. So, if you want to go into this field, go into it, try it out, and decide what's best for you. At law school, after law school, and I started out, and I started out doing defense, obviously, but I started out doing state cases, and I didn't know leaving law school that my practice would end up having a lot to do with federal criminal defense, right? So I didn't know that in the beginning. So that's something that naturally started happening. And now, I do both generally, state and federal criminal defense. And it's they're very different. So they're very different, but I enjoy both of them. So things like that will come along, as individual practice and through their career.
Awesome. And that's the thing I like to do. Like, we've had Doug Weinstein on. I really like for folks to get to know you guys outside of the courtroom and your opinions on things and things like that, your journey. So thank you for opening up and sharing. I think it's really important in this legal process, because not only are we opening the eyes to the public on what happens every day, the other part of it is, it takes a lot to get here. And, for all of you guys, I think all of you guys are an amazing defense attorneys. You each have a unique story and a unique path. So it's always great to hear somebody's come up, so to speak, their way to get them where they are now. So my last question, and I do have a few from the audience, just probably for her for it. But my last question for you is, what is next for Attorney Westmoreland? We probably have other cases to try, right? What is a higher West for you?
So we have clients that have, been patiently waiting, and, for us to finish this case. And we just appreciate the patience and the faith, to wait. And so we're, handling their case, and everybody deserves, their time and their moment. And when the focus is on them, it's on them. So we have several cases that we are about to try back to back. We have trials already scheduled for pretty much every month for as long as I can think of right now, because it's been a backlog. And so we're going to go try those cases and go for those acquittals, and, just keep going. Just keep going.
That is awesome. That is wonderful. Awesome. And just super, super inspiring. I'm going to come to a few people in the chat because, I'm pretty sure they all enjoy the conversation. So a few viewer questions. Shout out to Sally Sunshine. She says, question, I would like to make sure all the defense attorneys know they set a great example of professionalism, even in the face of so much chaos and disorder. Well, I think that's a compliment, Sally, but thank you. We'll take it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Brandy has a question here. She says, did social media help point things out to help build your defense?
So, I think we kind of mentioned it somewhat earlier. So a lot of times your defense is kind of built in before you go, right? And then as witnesses play out, you tweak certain things. But social media, it definitely helped several aspects of the case, right? Giving us an insight to how individuals perceive this witness or that piece of evidence or things of that nature, which let us know, all right, this is what people think, about this or that or this person. And so what do we want to do with that information, right? And so unfortunately, fortunately for our client, but we didn't get a chance to do like a closing argument and things of that nature. But things that we learned from the chat and social media would have played a part. And I'll say,
yeah, no, it definitely did. It definitely did, because it's like court of public opinion. So thank you so much, Brandy. Thank you. Coming over to Siri. He says, AB, ask if it is ever too old to go to law school. What do we think?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, I have a colleague at work I've done some cases with. He didn't go to law school until much, much later on in his life, and he's a dynamic lawyer.
That's awesome. Yeah, I had a lot of people, because I went part-time that night. A lot of my classmates were in their 40s. There's few folks in their 50s. I would say a majority in their 30s, but I totally agree with that one.
If anything, once you get out and handle your situation, you'll mature.
Oh, you do. You do. And I knew this because here's how I knew Siri. I would not go to the day classes when I had spare time because it had all the younger kids. And we would say that's the day class, but all the older people would go to the night classes. Right.
Right.
And the conversations were just better. So I totally agree there. Coming to that part, who has a question? She says, Moontung is I think she's asking, is Moontung able to appeal? I know you didn't.
I did. I prefer that question to his reverses.
Yes. Thank you so much.
I really hate to see what happened. I really do.
Yeah, that was interesting. And, I think soon we're going to have Ashley Merchant on kind of talking about, some of her experiences, her clients, things like that. A few other members of the defense. So guys, if you don't get a chance to ask a question right now, it's okay. But with that appeal, I mean, it was hard to see, but you guys are all learning as we see this, right? So thank you so much for that one. Shout out to Black Lexicon, who has a question, says, how do you find the energy to continue on after a trial like this?
That's a good one. One day at a time?
One day at a time. There you go. I love it.
And right now I think that we still feel pumped.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I haven't felt I don't know. Yeah. I'm still going.
Now, hopefully there's Thanksgiving holidays are coming, some days off. You guys get a chance to rest because to your point, there's a backlog of cases that, the show still goes on. You still have to work on advocacy for all those folks.
Right. And people still call now, right? And you want to be able to help them too. So, the holidays for us probably won't be off. But it'll be days where the phone's not ringing off the hook and just concentrate on your cases. So they'll make the best use of the time and go from there. We love this.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. All right, Miss Westmoreland, I'm going to let you go. But one thing I'm trying with my guest now is if you were to describe the trial in one word, what would it be?
Raleigh.
I love that. I love it so much. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. The audience loves you here. They have been rooting you on. Give our best to Mr. Hardy. We're just really glad with the outcome for some of the defendants. We feel like it should have been an acquittal for everyone. But at the same time, you get what you can, right? In a situation like this. And, we've been team defense from the very beginning.
Right. And let me just say this thing, because we all wanted an acquittal, but this is finality for several of our clients, and they get a chance to move on with their life. And that's important. So their life has been held, hostage for years, and they get a chance to go on their family, make music, do whatever they want to do and live their life, right? Not being behind some walls and sleeping on concrete. So although we want to do whatever it's, they get to move on, and that's great.
Yeah, 100%. And thank you for saying that, because that's the other thing is everyone that's been involved, we're all humans, right? Especially the folks that aren't. So you have to, put the cuffs on and go back to, prison. It's not a pleasant place. And the way you had described it, it's really how others have described, these jails, especially Georgia, hasn't been the best.
Yeah, especially Fulton. Disgusting. Listen, if you guys, if for me, please, for us, continue to watch the trial to completion and give these two individuals left, your attention, and because it helps. And so, if I could humbly ask for a favor, that would be it.
Awesome. Well, we will be here. If you guys could do me a huge favor, type Westmoreland in the chat. Thank you so much for coming. This means so much to my audience and all the people that have been invested in this trial. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. See you later.
Yeah. Bye now. Bye. Awesome, guys. That was so good. I'm so excited that we were able to have her on, ask some questions. Thank you guys for asking some questions. So thank you guys so much. We're really excited that we were able to have her on. I don't get an opportunity to really interview a lot of people on my side. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in.